Celtic versus Rangers. This September, only on Scottish.
Rockmania begins shortly, right after the country's news in Scotland Today.
Hello there. Councillors in Stirling admit they don't know what they're going to do with the town's notorious Haney family, who were driven from their home by an angry mob. Other local authorities have been approached to see if they can help rehouse the so-called neighbours from hell. Jeff Brown reports.
At number 15 Huntley Crescent on the Raploch estate today, workmen were securing Mags Haney's former home and campaign headquarters, so hurriedly vacated when Big Mags found herself on the receiving end of the sort of people power she champions. A mob angry at Haney family activities, which it's claimed were lowering the tone of the scheme, succeeded in driving a defiant Mags and her brood out and into a secret temporary address. Mags Haney's bespoke campaigning style, as in her leading of a vigilante squad to the lodgings of convicted paedophile Alan Christie, got results, but was not without a sizable margin for error. Once famously and publicly, she had to apologise to a man she had wrongly labelled as a child sex abuser.
It's been confirmed they have never ever been responsible for a child. So the only thing that we can say is we're really sorry.
The Haney family is not above reproach. The matriarch has a conviction for breaking a neighbour's nose and has admitted selling cannabis. Of her 8 children, only 1 does not possess a criminal record. Rehousing this assortment of social problems is giving those with that responsibility something of a headache.
There are 3 options. The Haney's return to their homes in Raploch at this point in time. The police wouldn't appreciate that. The community wouldn't appreciate that. Secondly, we've furnished them with alternative housing in the Stirling area, which has been requested anyway by Mags herself over the past few months. And thirdly, with the cooperation of the Haney family and other authorities, we may be able to house them within another local authority area. The problem is that the Mags is larger than life and she's known now UK-wide, and that's going to be difficult.
The Scottish Office Minister, Henry McLeish, has promised government sanctions against Scotland's neighbours from hell are on the way. In the meantime, though, 15 Huntley Crescent stands as a stark reminder to Stirling Council of its onerous responsibilities towards Mrs Haney, her infamous children and relations.
2 nightclubs have had their entertainment licences suspended following allegations of dangerous overcrowding. It's claimed that the Garage Club in Glasgow city centre packed in more than 1,500 people when the licence permitted only 600. A member of the club's staff could now face criminal charges of culpable and reckless conduct. Claire Dean reports.
The licensing board was told police officers visited the garage in Glasgow's Sucky Hall Street on 4 separate occasions between February and June this year. While the club is permitted to hold 600 patrons, during a spot check on June the 21st, when police were accompanied by the council's building control officers, it is alleged there were over 1,500 nightclubbers inside, over twice the number allowed. The Chief Constable also complained to the board about Reds, a smaller club which is also in Sucky Hall Street. Licensed for 170, a spot check on the 7th of June is alleged to have found the club operating in the region of 2/3 over capacity. Concerned about the potential risks to public safety, the licensing board meted out the maximum 1-year suspension to both clubs. It's understood the licence holders may now be facing charges of breaching the conditions of their licences, and that a member of staff at the garage could be charged with culpable and reckless conduct. Both clubs are now considering appealing against their suspensions.
A special helpline has been inundated with calls after 3 people were stabbed with a hypodermic syringe at a rock concert. 2 men who were attacked at the Primal Scream concert in Glasgow have been treated in hospital, but police fear more fans may have been stabbed without knowing. Paddy Christie reports.
Primal Scream's concert was in full swing with an audience of more than 7,000 on Sunday night, when one fan, standing about 4 rows back from the stage, saw the man in front of him suddenly thrust a hypodermic needle into 2 people in front of him. The fan grabbed his arm, but the attacker then stabbed him as well. The man, who doesn't want to be identified, went to hospital where he was tested for hepatitis B. Another came forward tonight, but the hunt's still on for one other standing at the front who may not even know he's been stabbed.
There is a danger that hepatitis B may have been passed on by this needle. We don't have any evidence that the person doing the stabbing was positive for hepatitis B. We're counting it as a high-risk needle.
It might seem unlikely that people would not realise that they had been stabbed, but the audience at the front say the police was packed solid.
You would have expected them to have noticed it. They may not have. Between all the hype that would be obviously on go at the time, the movement, as I say, they, to our knowledge, have not come forward yet.
Greater Glasgow Health Board say that people should check for a small puncture wound on their skin, and they've set up a concert assault helpline in Glasgow. So far they've had around 100 calls, some from fans and workers at the concert, some from anxious parents and some from teachers. The police say that the attacker is in his early 20s, small and thin, with short, shaggy brown hair.
The mother of the Scots nurse tried for murder in Saudi Arabia is to receive a full Foreign Office report on her daughter's health. It's claimed Lucy McLaughlin and her colleague Deborah Parry are suffering inhumane conditions in jail. Meanwhile, in Australia, moves are afoot to clarify what will happen to the pair if they're found guilty. Martin Geisler reports.
The trial of Lucille McLaughlin and Deborah Parry ended more than 2 weeks ago. The pair are in Dammam Central Prison at the moment, waiting to hear when their verdict will be announced. Under Islamic law, if they are found guilty, Yvonne Guilford's family will have the right to decide whether they live or die. Her brother has already said he wants them to be executed, but the decision has to be unanimous. Lawyers acting for the nurses are claiming the dead woman's mother, who has Alzheimer's, can't contribute to that decision because of her mental state. That is now being checked out independently.
Well, I've been appointed guardian to make an attempt to find out whether she's able to make a considered view about what ought to happen to the two alleged perpetrators of the offence in Saudi Arabia.
Have you had any discussions with her yet?
Only incidentally at the guardianship board.
She expressed fairly strong views during that hearing.
She did indeed, and it's whether those views could be regarded as a considered view, and that's my job to try and work through some of that material.
Lucy McLaughlin's mother is in Saudi at the moment, visiting her daughter in jail. She says conditions there are appalling. Their cell is hot and has no sanitary provision, and 2 other women and their children are in alongside them. Mrs. McLaughlin from Dundee says the 2 Britons are becoming seriously ill as a result. She's to continue her campaign to have the pair removed from jail and put in hospital.
A man has been arrested in connection with an attack on an 86-year-old woman in Fife. The incident took place in the pensioner's home in the Netherton area of Dunfermline in the early hours of Saturday morning. The man's expected to appear at Dunfermline Sheriff Court tomorrow. Scottish Secretary Donald Dewar has been continuing his campaign to reassure industrialists that a Scottish Parliament would be good for business. At a major conference in Glasgow, some of Scotland's top bosses were given the chance to voice any fears they had. But as our business correspondent Alan Sonby reports, not many were speaking out.
The conference, Scotland's Parliament, attracted high-powered speakers. Many addressed the question whether a Scottish Parliament should have tax-raising powers. Over 300 businessmen and businesswomen who turned up heard the Scottish Council chairman highlight some of their general fears.
Whatever we hear, however reassuring it may sound, there will be problems, and one of the biggest problems will be those of perception and credibility. Our business competitors have an enormous vested interest in talking up difficulties and downside of devolution in order to detract from the Scottish economic base.
But I have to say to you that an awful lot of the arguments that are put against a Scottish Parliament seem to me to be posited on the rather unlikely assumption that any Scottish Parliament will have no regard whatsoever to the interests of Scots or Scotland and can be relied upon to act in a way that is irresponsible. I think that is inconceivable. I don't believe that is the spirit in which it will be approached, and I regard it, putting kindly, as a most curious view for anyone in Scotland to make.
Only a few speakers went for a head-on confrontation with the Scottish Secretary. Many business people remain wary of the tax-raising powers, but felt the Scottish Secretary had allayed key concerns about the division of powers between Westminster and Scotland.
And finally, let's take a look at tonight's football results. And in the second leg matches of the UEFA Cup qualifying round, Celtic dramatically beat Austrian team FC Tirol 6-3, a 7-5 aggregate victory. Meanwhile, Dundee United drew 1-1 with Turkish side Trabzonspor losing 2-1 on aggregate. And that's all from the late news team for tonight. We're back on air bright and early with the early morning news at 5:25. For now, though, do have a very good night.
Hello there. Well, tonight's going to see some rain in the west, though eastern areas of the country will remain mostly dry, but with strong southwesterly winds. Now, these winds will persist into the early hours of the morning, most especially, though, along the west coast. And the west of the country will see heavy rain. The east, though, seeing a mixture of scattered showers and drier patches. Temperatures, though, remaining mild at ranging around 9 to 13 Celsius. Now, the rain in the west of Scotland will reach eastern parts by mid-morning, giving unsettled conditions and indeed scattered showers in most places. Temperatures again, though, will stay mild, but we're going to have gale force winds in the west coast. Now, these winds will last well into the afternoon, though the rain will ease, allowing some sunshine to break through in the southeast. Temperatures, though, reaching around 16 to 18 Celsius. Now, Thursday will also be a wet day, especially in the west, with strong southwesterly winds and temperatures ranging around the mid-teens Celsius. So that's all for the moment. I'll leave you with the summary. Have a very good night. Goodbye.
QuickFit, at your service, come rain or shine.
Find love on the phone.